Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture again, and today I am here on a dark and stormy, rainy day in Georgia to bring you one of my favorite genres of horror, my top 10 favorite creepy, atmospheric, small town horror movies. This is my absolute favorite genre of horror. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right. So I am here. The mood is right. This is a video that I've been working on for a little bit because, like I said, this is probably really is my favorite genre of horror. I like those horror films that are eerie, and a lot of times they're set in like quaint or quintessential small towns. But it's like one of those things where the whole town just something doesn't feel right. Like you contrast this idyllic setting of this small town with just this underlying creep factor of things that are wrong. And I love that vibe. Not so much, it doesn't necessarily be have to be gory. It doesn't have to be like super jump out and scary, but I like horror movies that you can throw on for an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours or longer on a creepy fall day and just like settle in and let that atmosphere descend over you and you kind of get immersed in it. It's kind of hard to get immersed in like a fast-paced slasher or something like that, but these are the kind of movies that are just genuinely to me unsettling. And sometimes sometime afterwards when you've turned off the video and you're done watching that movie, later on that atmosphere, that creep factor just settles back into you and you're still kind of creeped out about it. That is what I like. Things that can kind of get into you and mess with you. And oftentimes, for whatever reason, these type of films are set in small towns. And to that end, I'm going to have a few honorable mentions before we get to the top 10. But it is just something that seems like it goes hand in glove. I mean, just perfect together. And there are definitely some writers and directors who capture that really well. And you'll probably see one or two featured here. But I think I got some surprises for you on this list and in my honorable mentions. So we're going to get to it. But hey, before I even get started, if you guys checked out, I have this awesome pumpkin. This was a gift from my wife, Risha, and this is Ian's Pumpkin Carvings, and he does awesome work. You can find him on Instagram, and he got me this pumpkin out super quick and sent it to me to help represent AV pop culture all the time, bringing in, getting ready for spooky season. It could not be more perfect to have with this particular video, and I really hope you enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get to this list. And like I said, I'm going to start with honorable mentions rather than saving them to the end. There is a film from 2013 that is called We Are What We Are. And it's on this list. I don't have it on physical media. It's on this list because it has that vibe where like everybody in the town just sort of knows something's wrong. It's just unsettling. But it's not all the way up on my list in my top 10 because I don't like the twist, and the type of horror this turns out to be is not necessarily my thing. But it does have those atmospheric vibes to it. Another one is Fulci's City of the Living Dead. Definitely has those atmospheric vibes. Fulci always tends to go over though, like with the gore, and and sometimes it can kind of take me out of it because I'm looking for like the feeling that atmosphere, like something like realistic, that something is underlying that's wrong, that could really happen, that you just can't put your finger on. And so when you go over the top, it kind of maybe takes me out of that feeling a little bit. but it is definitely worth a mention. Another one that is worth the mention is Rose Red by Stephen King. Now, this is a haunted house movie, and it's a mini series made for TV, but it definitely just, I love this movie. I wish that one of the boutiques would pick this up and some of the other King movies that were miniseries and do them right, because Rose Red is something that probably could be remade into something very, very, very scary. But it just has that atmosphere and just keeps settling in on you, and the mystery goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and the creep factor goes deeper and deeper. I love it. There's another one that I wanted to mention before we get to the list that I actually do not agree with. I heard over and over and over again that 2009's House of the Devil by Ty West, the It director of right now, that it was atmospheric and it had that atmosphere vibe, and it was like watching an 80s film. And not to me, it wasn't. It was like somebody trying to make an 80s film now. It felt a little more like 70s the way it looked. It really felt like, and I think I'm only a couple years older than him, but it felt like a movie that, I don't know, like somebody who only has a approximation memory of the 80s made it. And I do love the fact that he shot on film. I love the look of it, but I don't get the atmosphere. To be honest with you, I don't know if I get the hype. I am debating on tackling this film for another video, but I did like some of the things. I just don't get the atmosphere from it that everyone else does. I just don't. It just doesn't hit that for me. But I know a lot of people kept telling me about this movie when I was researching this and thinking about it, so I wanted to mention it here. I just don't get that from it. Like when I think of 80s horror, or even early 90s, late 70s, these movies that I talk about with atmosphere, I think of movies like these. And then I think of like slashers. I think of Nightmare on Elm Street. I think of Friday the 13th. I think of the Halloween sequels. I think of all that kind of stuff like that, Killer Clowns, like all this stuff. The type of film that House of the Devil is not really one I remember being synonymous with the 80s. But it's not like it's a horrible film or anything. I just wanted to address it because I kept hearing it again and again and again about the atmosphere. All right. There's probably a ton that could be on this list. The Shining has atmosphere. It doesn't have that small town, but man, does it ever have that atmosphere to it. So there's definitely films that are going to be left off. It's not that I don't think they have any atmosphere. This is just my top 10 that I go to. And I think the first one up is going to surprise you a little bit. And it's one of the, I think only one or two that I don't have on physical media. And that is 2004, I think it's 2004's The Village by M. Night Shyamalan. And I know that like a lot of his stuff kind of gets dumped on because, he just sort of made a shtick about the big twists in the endings and everything else. But when you talk about a creepy atmosphere and a creepy mystery that you're trying to unfold, and that it involves kind of like a small town, in this case, a small village. And then, the townspeople are in on it. Are they not in on it? Is there evil out there? Like all these kind of things. It definitely captures that vibe for me. So yes, definitely The Village by M. Night Shyamalan comes in here at number 10 for me. Well acted. Great cast in it. No matter how you feel about him and his twists, I think this movie belongs on that list. So it comes in at number 10 for me. Now, number 9 is one that we all probably know really well and has been talked about a lot, especially with the recent Vinegar Syndrome release. And it might surprise you a little bit too, but I am talking Amityville Horror. Now, it takes the most idyllic setting, this beautiful town in what is it, in New York or wherever it is, and Staten Island, and just turns it on its head with the murders, the supernatural aspect, this family falling apart, the dad being attacked like spiritually, and all those kind of things. And it just has an oppressive atmosphere that keeps going and going. And it did not lose that when it got the 4K restoration. The colors are more vibrant and all of that kind of stuff, but somehow it enhanced it instead of like making it feel brighter and more cheerful. The colors and the clarity just added to the atmosphere of this thing, and you could really see Josh Brolin's or James Brolin's character falling apart in this movie. And Margot Kidder is great. This is one that still haunts me to this day. People can say, whatever. This is one of the movies that scared me. This movie gets into your bones, and that's why all these years later, it's still so popular. Amityville Horror sets a creepy atmosphere that is as good as anything out there. The fact that they throw in based on a true story, all that kind of stuff, it just adds to it. Amityville Horror definitely makes my list. I think this next one's going to surprise some people too. And it's because it's probably not one that you think of. And I'm going to tell you the truth. It's one that I did not like that much when I was younger. But now I think that Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, I love that artwork there. Scream Factory did a great job with these. I think Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, I mean, it is isolated, desolate. You've got Tom Atkins running around there. There are whole scenes where it's just night, foggy. You don't know what the hell's going on. He goes through streets and towns, and it's like you don't see anyone else. Even in the hospital, like when he's chasing the guy at the beginning that comes in there and kills the other dude and then lights himself on fire. He's running through the hospital, and if you ever go back and pay attention, he runs through door after door, hallway after hallway. It's empty. All the way till he gets to like the very front of the hospital. It's pretty much empty. To me, that's creepy. And the town is pretty much empty. And then you have this weird supernatural entity that's in town that's like bewitching these masks, and it's got this whole plan, and you're trying to solve this mystery, and people are dying, and he's running around trying to save, everyone and figure out what's going on. And there's just this hopeless isolation in the atmosphere. And I think it is definitely a very atmospheric film. Now, of course, when I was younger, I didn't like it because we didn't have the internet and all that kind of stuff. And I went into it thinking that, Michael Myers was in it. It was a Halloween movie. I think if they'd have called this anything else, it would have been much more successful right out of the gate. They could have called it Season of the Witch, a Halloween story, or something like that. And kind of like Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And it probably would have done better. I friggin' love Tom Atkins. I will never get out of my head now the original Fuzz referring to him in movies as slinging some dick around. I will never get that out of my head because couldn't be more perfect for Tom Atkins, particularly in this film. But, he's with this girl, and, it's like they're isolated. They might as well be on the moon. And that atmosphere and the commercials that keep playing and all of that kind of stuff, and you're unraveling this supernatural mystery. Great atmosphere. Love Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. All right, so the next one is one I think is... I think I have 3 of these that I don't have on physical media. One of them I actually did just order. I just don't have it yet. I was hoping I would have it. But this one is a Stephen King movie, and Stephen King may capture this feeling. It may be King and Carpenter that are the very best at capturing this creepy, atmospheric, something's just lying underneath the surface that's wrong, that there's an evil just under the surface that's affecting things, trying to get things out, and it's oppressive and it affects the people, and the people kind of become in on it and part of it. Those two might do that better than anyone. And the next one I'm talking about here, number 7, is 1993's Needful Things. You have Ed Harris in this movie, I believe it is, and I believe literally what happens here is the devil himself comes to town. And played beautifully by Max Van Sydow. I'm never going to, I say his name one way and then you hear other people say it another way. The man plays the devil beautifully. Now, there's no big gore in this movie. There's some blood and everything else. There's no big gore. But like you kind of get in on the mystery, and you're not sure. It's like, are they really going there? Is he really supposed to be the devil the whole time? And he's twisting these people up. So these townspeople, they come to his shop. He has an antique shop, and he has everyone's needful thing. The thing that they want the most, the thing that they can't live without. And he makes it to where they can't say no, where they can't live without it, because he connects it to their memories and their nostalgia and all of this kind of stuff. And no matter what it is, he has it, because he's the damn devil. But what does he do? There is always a price, and he doesn't make them pay in money. Okay? He makes them pay by doing evil deeds to other towns members. And the other people in the town, it's like this big circle. So he knows everyone's weaknesses. He knows everyone's fears. He knows their little dirty secrets. He knows who doesn't like each other, and he exploits it. And they let it be exploited. And it is so human and so terrifying at the same time that he doesn't need big monsters walking around or anything. What could really happen here and really twist people up, and what they can do to each other when they are twisted up, we've seen it. It's real. It can happen. And as of course, one of these things that you always have in common a lot of times with these is a small town sheriff, or you always have that group that represents the light, the good. A lot of times it's the sheriff. Sometimes it's kids, but you always have a hero, and they represent the light that can never be shut out by the darkness. And in this case, it's the small town sheriff, and he begins to unravel this. He doesn't take his needful thing. He learns about what this is. And there's little subtle hints as it goes along. This is what I mean by the atmosphere. Every time he wraps up an antique that he actually sells, it's old newspapers that are covered with horrible disasters, murders, all kinds of evil stuff. And he's putting that out there constantly. And, Ed Harris figures it out, and he figures out he's the devil. And the town, he leads, and the town fights back against the evil. And they do defeat him to an extent. He can't be defeated. But the sheriff figures it out. And to me, one of the most chilling line deliveries ever that will settle into my bones is when the sheriff says something about "in the name of Jesus Christ." And Max Van Sydow says, in his character as the devil, he's like, "Oh, the carpenter from Nazareth. I knew him well. He died horribly."
The young carpenter from Nazareth? I knew him well. Promising young man. But he died badly.
Like, that's all he needs to say. Like, yes, he's the devil. He also refers to about keeping it hot in there with the fire and all this. I could never in a million years deliver that line that way. That line said, yes, I'm the devil. Yes, I've always been here. Yes, I'm doing these things. I've always done these things, and I will always do these things. And even blowing him up doesn't put an end to it. He walks out, the house is blown up, and he tells them, he basically tells them, I'm the devil. This is always the tough part of the job. And then he leaves town like, because he can't be killed. And it is completely engrossing atmosphere. Love Needful Things. In case you can't tell, I've talked about it for a while. Now, the next one I do have coming in at number 6 is one I've talked about before. If you have not seen this movie, run, don't walk to get a copy and watch it. Don't let the fact that this is a Disney movie fool you. This son of a bitch is one of the creepiest that you're ever going to see. It's going to settle in from the moment at the beginning when an old man tells these boys that by the pricking of his thumb, something wicked this way comes. And this is but it's Disney, but it's Ray Bradbury story. And you have Mr. Dark in his carnival, Pandemonium Carnival coming to town with it's either the autumn or the October people. I think it's one way in the book and one way in the movie. And what it is he's like another representative of the devil in a way. It's very similar. He gives people, they have their dream. They have the thing they want the most. This is a recurring theme because it's a very human thing to play on. They have the thing that they want the most. And he gives it to them, but in exchange, he takes their souls. And his people all live on the power of these souls that are collected. And you have everything you want from an atmosphere. You've got dead fall leaves blowing everywhere. You've got this small town. You've got a creepy carnival that's come to town. You literally have the villain in a black hat. I mean, he's literally Black Hat coming to town. You've got all the fall and Halloween vibes. It's gray, cold. There's lots of storms and lightning and weather vanes and pumpkins. Creepy carnival. What do you want? It's loaded with atmosphere, a creepy mystery that's unraveled. And guess what? It's only the innocents, the kids really, that can fight back. Go figure. Great one. Something wicked this way comes. All right. Next up, we are going to go back to Stephen King for 1999's Storm of the Century. This movie, I actually thought when I was looking at this movie was older than 1999. So it's about 25 years old. But if you haven't seen this movie, it's a town. I can't remember the town's name in Maine. Stephen King sets a lot of stuff in Maine. I like the Entertainment Weekly, the Triple Deadbolt Your Door miniseries. It's another miniseries. And this town is facing the snowstorm of the century. They're going to be completely isolated. They're like out on a little inlet or island. They're going to be completely isolated. And this man comes to town. And you have no idea what he wants or what he's doing or what he is. But again, people start dying. He starts killing people. And then he tells them, if you give me what I want, I will go away. And he's definitely some sort of supernatural, older than whatever being, and he has powers. You just don't know what it is. And for a long time, you don't know what he wants. And so that, I think when you have an engrossing, like, supernatural mystery, and then you have the small town, and you have, it adds to that atmosphere. And, you know, he wants one of their children. It's never actually clear 100% like why. It's like a protege that he's passing on. In the movie, I don't know if this is actually, I think this is one that was never a book first. So I think this was written for TV. And I don't have a clear explanation of what he is, but he's some type of supernatural evil being. But the atmosphere, the snow, the gray, the cold, the isolation, the murders, the deaths, the what the hell's going on, the supernatural element, it's all there. Atmosphere oozes everywhere from Storm of the Century. All right, we are going again back in time to 1979 to find some Stephen King, but this time Tobe Hooper is bringing you the terror to the TV with Salem's Lot. Now, this book this is maybe almost too faithful to the book. There's maybe some things that could be left out that slow it down, but all of that adds to the atmosphere, because basically people in this town are slowly all being turned to vampires. And the vampire in this, I'm trying to see if you can see the, there we go. The vampire in this is one of the creepiest vampires ever. Go into a reflection there. But you don't see him very much, and that kind of makes it more effective. And you see other vampires, and I'm going to tell you, when you talk atmosphere, the part where the little boy vampire floats outside the window and the fog and the window opens, to this day, Chase Smith thinks about that at night when he closes window blinds and window curtains, because that was scary. I mean, it was just so simple and subtle. And Tobe Hooper is, I mean, you know, legend. But I don't know if a lot of people really think about him, you know, doing this movie. They think this is a Stephen King. The novel is really good. There in the novel, there is a writer that comes back to his small town, and he's going to maybe write another novel, and there's all these things that happen. And then this mystery unfolds, and you have a creepy ass old haunted looking house. You have this writer seeing ghosts pretty quick off the bat. You have weird things happening. So again, you have this mystery, you have, and all this fog and creepy and isolation of this small town. It's almost like you can't get out. It's like it's caught in this other dimension where you can't leave, and all these things are happening, and everybody knows it, and nobody's talking about it. It's right there under the surface until it's too late. Salem's Lot is really good. I only have this Blu-ray, and the back of it is like cracked because it's these crappy old cases, but I would love to have a better set of this. Somebody needs to do this in a much better way. These boutiques, there's a lot of stuff. I hear people saying, what would they release? What would they release? There's a lot of stuff for boutiques to put out, y'all. You're not even thinking about it. All right, so we are now to our top 3 atmospheric films, and well, this one, you knew this one had to be on the list. We're going Carpenter and The Fog. Awesome 4K steelbook here by Scream Factory, and this movie, I'm talking, you know, The Fog. It is synonymous. You have the small town in Oregon, like these small beach. A lot of times it's like these beach towns, kind of weird. But you have this small town, and, you know, these monsters, these ghosts come back for revenge. They come in the fog. This town's very isolated. You got Tom Atkins again slinging dick around. In this one, and running around trying to solve the mystery, trying to see what's going on. You have Adrienne Barbeau in here, and love you, Adrienne. I did get this with the other set there of The Fog, and there's a long story there. But this movie, like, it's like the king of atmosphere. So you're going to be thinking, like, what movies could beat this? You know, you got this as 1980, and John Carpenter, like I said, Carpenter and King, they may be the kings of doing this. You cannot go wrong with The Fog if you want to throw something on and get some serious atmosphere. The only reason it's not higher for me is it's somewhat short. You know, like, I want these atmospheric films, I want them to play on, and I can't remember how long it is, but, like, even as I was watching it again here recently, I'm like, man, I kind of want this to play longer. But when you talk about atmosphere, one thing that sets these movies up for me that I absolutely love in horror movies is when you have the late night radio DJ kind of narrating things. I actually wrote this into the next script that hopefully I do when I make a movie. I love that aspect. I believe it's in the Tales of Halloween, which has some great atmosphere too. I love that, the old school, you know, DJ talking late at night. And Adrian Barbeau does that. Absolutely love it. It adds to the atmosphere. Love The Fog. All right, so number 2 is one that I actually just recently watched for the first time, even though it came out in 1981. And this is one that I've ordered. I do not have yet. It didn't get here in time. And some people are going to say that maybe it's somewhat of a copy of The Fog. It came out a year later. It's involving the like writers and producers on Alien. And I'm talking about 1981's Dead and Buried. Holy crap, y'all. I just watched this movie the other day when I was sick. I had food poisoning and I was down on the couch. And this movie, the trailer can scare you. And it doesn't show anything to scare you. But just the way it says, here's the road into Potter's Bluff. And, you know, it's narrating and it's showing this long country road into this small, again, like isolated seaside town. It shows this road going in. And at the end of the trailer, this is the road into Potter's Bluff. There is no road out. Like, oh, I was in already. Like the,
This is the road to Potter's Bluff. Maybe you've been there. This is the road to Potter's Bluff. There is no road out.
It had that from the beginning. And when like the movie The Fog is famous for the fog, it doesn't have as much fog in it as Dead and Buried. And again, you have a small town sheriff and he's trying to solve these murders. This movie starts with a hell of a murder, like crazy murder. And you're like, from the get-go, there's like townspeople who are in on it and they're murdering this guy and they're taking pictures. And you're like, whoa, what the hell just happened here? And it launches you in to it, but then it is a slow burn and murders keep happening and the sheriff is trying to figure it out. And you have this creepy town undertaker who's like obsessed with beautifying dead bodies and burying them. And it is one of those things because it's slow burn. I mean, it's probably a couple hours long. I don't remember seeing the runtime. It's fairly long, but it needs to be. I've heard people say it's slow. It needs to be because it's trying to settle you in on something. Now, I will say this. I was disappointed with the very, very last, like, 45 seconds of the movie. And I'm not going to say what it is, but if you've seen it, you'll know why. And then I found out I rewatched it on Joe Bob's Drive-In so that I could hear him talk about it when I was doing the research. And he said that the movie was sold 3 times during production and post-production. And so they did a screening of the original director's cut and audiences loved it. And the person who, the company that bought it said, I didn't buy this movie. I bought a horror, like a fast-paced horror movie, basically. And so you need to get in there and recut it. So there's like 17 minutes missing and like a half hour changed completely. And the ending is completely changed. And I would love to see, I don't think it even exists for them to restore or to put on anything, according to what Joe Bob was saying. But that's too bad because I would have loved to seen the original ending because the ending that they went with causes plot holes. I'm going to admit it, the size of the Grand Canyon. The ending that they have cannot exist with the rest of the movie. It can't. And I'm just talking about the last like 45 seconds. Cannot exist with the rest of the movie. But the story, the mystery, the atmosphere, the ride of the movie, forget the ending. Sometimes it's about the journey and not the destination. The ride of this movie just settles in on you. It is oppressive. It is engrossing. You're trying to figure it out. It is creepy and unsettling. Doesn't even begin to cover it. It is evil lurking right at the surface. That is dead and buried, and that's why it comes in just above The Fog and at number 2 on my list, and I cannot wait to get it. Pissy ending and all. All right. Number 1, I'm probably going to get some blowback on you from some of you. I do not care. This film specifically says some of the stuff that I'm talking about. I am going Stephen King again with 1990's It. And why did I have the other movies? I have the remakes. Why did I pick this? Because the remakes do not capture the atmosphere. They do not capture it the same way. They just do not. I don't care what you say. They trade atmosphere for other stuff. Honestly, feel like if you could combine some of the stuff from the new movie and put it into this, you'd have the perfect It movie. But there is this, the whole town of Derry is bad. And when you read the book and you watch the movie, it is an eternal evil being that was created at the beginning of the universe. And he has been literally just underneath the surface in Derry for thousands and years or whatever, thousands and thousands of years. And he is eroding the fabric of our reality and the fabric of people's sanity and their goodness. It is literally said in this, they figured out, don't you understand? The whole town is it in some way. Like, they literally say the creepy small town atmospheric movie, they say it in here. They say the reason it is that way. The whole town is it in some way. The evil that is just under the surface has infiltrated everything. Everybody, people that look the other way when bad things happen, people that don't help their fellow, neighbors, people who murder people for no reason. All of these things, it's because of it. He's an eternal evil. Again, almost like a devil type figure. And if you go into the Dark Knight or the Dark Tower series, I mean, you find out that maybe he's like part of a holy trinity or a unholy trinity of evil that makes up what we think of as hell, and that is in just another dimension that is just slightly beside ours, and these evil things are constantly pushing through, trying to get through to our side, and there are thin places in those dimensions where they can push through to our side. And that's why in some places you see demons, you see these supernatural things, because they were able to get through in those specific areas. This town, this beautiful little small town nestled in Maine, the mythical Derry, Maine, is one of those places. And the central evil underneath the surface that creates this atmosphere, this sense of unwell being, this sense of evil and creepiness that permeates the movie and affects the people. It is always there. It is the perfect name. The atmosphere that you try to put your finger on, like this creepy small town atmosphere, what makes a horror movie creepy and atmospheric? It does. Just it. Whatever it is, that movie has it. And this movie definitely has it in more ways than one. It is my top atmospheric, put it on and just get into those creepy vibes. It is all there. Like I said, this is one of my favorite genres, maybe my favorite genre. I love to just get into that headspace. I'll watch these type of movies, then I'll watch like creepy documentaries, and just, I get all these ideas, and it's just this overall feeling going. And it's really great around like, the fall and all that, when it's raining and storming and stuff like it is today. And I don't know, let me know what you guys think. What are some of your favorite atmospheric, specifically small town atmospheric horror movies? I love these. Of course, there's others that I love that I mentioned too, and there's others that could be on this list, but this is probably like my go-to when it comes to these movies. Like this genre, werewolf genre, you know, and then vampires and haunted houses. Probably this, and then haunted houses and werewolves, and then vampires are probably like my favorite. Like, so it's this and haunted houses, like way up here, and then like werewolves and then vampires. But I absolutely love it. I love the deep thought, deep thinking, because nothing is more scary than your imagination and what it can cook up. So let me know in the comments, what do you think of my list? What are some movies you would add to this list? Please add them, because I'm always looking for this type of movie to buy and own on physical media and enjoy. So please add anything that I didn't list or talk about. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, and please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this. I have a lot of this type of content and so much more for you, and if that's something that you're into, you can consider joining the Pop Culture Friends and Family. You can join, be a channel member, join on Patreon. You're going to get like a lot of the same perks. You're going to get your name and lights on the videos, all that kind of stuff, shout outs, special giveaways, live streams, all that. But you don't have to do any of that to support me and hang out here. Just like, subscribe, share, help spread the pop culture word. And until next time, this is Chase with AV Pop Culture saying, be kind, rewind like always. And I'll see you real soon. Bye now.